What's up, guys? It is the final Grand Prix week of the 2018 season. I cannot believe it. I mean, can you? I mean, it feels to me, I don't know what you think, feels to me like it's gone like that. It feels literally like a week or so ago that we were packing up to go to Australia. But then, you know, I do say that all the time. It flies by once you get into it. I think it's been a good season. I know it got wrapped up early. I know it ended up being dominated by Lewis and Mercedes, but the first half of the season we had some close fights. We've had some great controversy all the way through. I think generally this is going to go down as a pretty good season. Let me know what you think on that, actually. Do you rate this one as a good one, average, or not quite so good? Take it or leave it. Let me know what you think. Anyway, let's look at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This is always one of the glitziest, most glamorous races on the calendar. It's a special circuit. They all say this is the most expensive Formula One circuit ever built. People talk about the fact that this thing made it cost $1 billion to put together as a purpose-built facility. It is incredible. The grandstands are amazing. The facilities are amazing. The garages for the teams are air-conditioned. I mean, that is a luxury you don't get at very many places. The circuit itself is another anti-clockwise one. We talked about before about there not being too many of those and the effects that can have on the drivers and on the cars. Not quite as extreme around this one as some of the others, but still anti-clockwise nonetheless. The circuit, the asphalt, the surface of the track is pretty smooth, so in terms of tyres it's not the toughest race on the tyres. The abrasion level is very low. So tyres tend to last a lot longer, certainly in terms of wear and degradation. Degradation, when it comes from overheating the rear tyres, particularly around this track. Much of the circuit is about traction, braking and traction, but getting the power down on the circuit smoothly without spinning the rear tyres is absolutely key to not overheating them and then accelerating that degradation process at the rear of your car. So in terms of the sectors, 3 very distinct sectors around the lap. Sector 1, I guess a mixture of sort of medium to fast corners. Sector 2, very, very fast, 2 long straights, DRS enabled straights in qualifying, of course. And Sector 3, almost like a street circuit, some very tight, twisty sections where braking and traction is absolutely crucial to that third part. So you can see from that, you know, Sector 2, you want low downforce, you want maximum top speed. Sectors 3 and 1, really, particularly Sector 3, you really need massive amounts of grip. So you need good mechanical grip, you need massive amounts of aerodynamic grip. So there's a massive compromise to be had. Oh God, the dogs are off again. Every time I do a video, the dogs start mucking about and barking just behind the camera. So the engineers have a real compromise, as they always do, but here perhaps a bit more extreme, a compromise in how they set the car up aerodynamically to cope with that. What you end up with is a sort of medium to high downforce setup on the car. In qualifying, of course, you can use DRS to offload a bunch of that drag and increase your top speed down the 2 long straights. So actually that tends to push us more towards high downforce settings or medium to high downforce settings that cope with the demands in the more twisty parts of the circuit. Excuse my sniffly nose today, by the way, I got a massive cold. What else do we know about this particular track? Overtaking is actually not the easiest around here. Even though you've got 2 long straights with DRS, it's not the easiest place to get by because, particularly coming onto the first one, you've got to stay close to the car in front. Coming through a number of sort of quite tight and twisty turns to be able to be close enough on the straight to have an opportunity to get by. And that's not the easiest thing to do with these modern Formula One cars. It's going to be interesting next year actually to see the effect of the bigger DRS flap at circuits like this, where you have these big long DRS affected straights. When you've got a huge DRS flap opening up, dumping more drag than you've got this year, is the DRS effect going to be too powerful, and is it going to be too easy to get by and overtake? And you know, do you actually want to be heading onto those long straights in second place rather than first place because of that DRS effect? That's going to be quite an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Tyres, we've got the softest tyres in the range from Pirelli. We've got the Hypersoft, again, the pink Hypersoft, the purple Ultra Soft and the red Super Soft. It'll be the very last time you see the pink or purple tyres actually this weekend, because of course next year we go to just 3 different colour bands on the tyres. We've got what have we got? White, red and yellow for next year. So no matter what the compound, we only have 3 nominations of colour bands around tyres next year to make it simple. So the last time you'll see the pink and purple banded tyres here. Tyres, as I said, not too tricky apart from managing degradation. One of the unique things about this track and this race, of course, which goes against pretty much every other race on the calendar, is that whereas you go to most places, the temperature starts to ramp up towards the race start time on a Sunday afternoon, and as you get into the race you get peak maximum temperatures both of the ambient and the track surface. Well, here of course it has the opposite. You start in the sunlight towards sunset, and as the race gets under the way, the sun disappears, it goes into twilight and temperatures drop quite dramatically, and that actually is a real challenge for the engineers because that completely changes the balance of the car. It changes the way that the tyres are able to operate. The temperature window of those tyres are much more difficult to get into at different stages of this race. So it is a technical challenge for the teams and engineers, and of course the drivers. Very heavy on braking. Very heavy on braking around this track, almost as heavy as somewhere like Canada, which we always think about as being one of the really heavy braking tracks. So that's something to watch out for. You often see teams, particularly later on in the racing, big clouds of brake dust coming off the front brakes, and that can be a sign that teams are starting to wear through them a bit too quickly. Fuel, it's a pretty high fuel consumption track as well, so potentially we may see fuel saving at different stages if we don't get things like safety cars around this particular track. Power units, I mean this is the last race of the season, don't forget, so all the components, particularly power unit components, for most people are going to be towards the very end of their life. So that means they're much more prone to failure, but it also means teams are going to have to work them a little bit less. They're going to have to push them a little bit less. And that might see reduced lap times, might see reduced race times. It may actually contribute to less overtaking in the race if teams have got less of their maximum power modes available for them to use. So I hope that doesn't spoil the race. Highly likely to be a one-stop, as we've become pretty used to. I hope it's not an absolute bore fest. We've still got plenty to play for up and down the field in terms of, well, not so much positions in the championship. There are a few still to be decided, but certainly great sign-offs for various people. Fernando Alonso, of course, leaving Formula 1. Stoffel van Dorn, so both McLaren drivers. There are a number of other drivers. Esteban Ocon, what's he going to do? Highly expecting, by the way, to hear an announcement probably tomorrow that Robert Kubica has signed a race deal with Williams to partner George Russell for 2019. So that will be big breaking news. Not what a lot of people expected. Great story though, if he gets back in a race seat. Great full circle, isn't it, from his accident. Great recovery, great mindset to get himself back in the game. So that's to look forward to. We've got the test coming up straight after this race. So on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we get the tyre test, and that will see the 2019 tyres being run for the first time, much like they did this time last year in Abu Dhabi, where we saw the Hypersoft for the very first time. Teams will get the opportunity to run the brand new 2019 tyres on Tuesday and Wednesday at the Abu Dhabi circuit. We'll also probably see a number of future drivers, so 2019 drivers running in those cars, not always for the first time, but perhaps all together on the same piece of track at the same time. So that'll be quite interesting as well. Expect lots of developments, aero developments, test parts being put on the car for 2019 for that tyre test as well. So I think plenty to look forward to, really looking forward to it. Lots of people to say goodbye to, lots of things to say hello to in terms of technology and tyres, as I say, for 2019. I hope it's going to be a good one. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your predictions are. Let me know what you thought of this season. And I will speak to you tomorrow.